21 to 7 days, the time frame within which to file a presidential election petition. We have details as the Apex Court says those cases, when filed, will be dealt with within 42 days.
Is proposing that should there be any dispute, it would not go beyond 42 days.
Top story is brought to you by Belacqua Mineral Water and Gassam Cement, the nation builder. Now, tonight, some vice presidential candidates and members of political parties, the Progressive People's Party, Kofi Asamoah says it will be unconstitutional for the court to limit the time frame within which someone can file an election petition to the Supreme Court. A justice of the Supreme Court today, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, said that they are recommending that all election petitions are brought within 7 days after declaration of the final results by the Electoral Commission. He spoke at the launch of the 4th edition of the Manual on Election Adjudication.
Okay, so first of all, I want to start from where Mr. Maliba ended, because I got the same impression that I heard the words recommendation, proposals, and so on. Because for the provision in Article 64, for anybody to suggest any other procedure or timeline which is inconsistent with that constitutional provision, we have to do that through constitutional amendment, which actually has to go through a referendum, because the entire of Chapter 8, which is the executive chapter in the Constitution, is an entrenched provision. So it is only the people of Ghana who can amend that provision through a referendum. So the Supreme Court cannot, in my view, constitute themselves into Ghanaians and say that they have changed the 21 days period to 7 days. That would be completely unconstitutional.
And so that's the vice presidential candidate of the Progressive People's Party, Kofi Asamoah. We'll hear from the NDC shortly that is agreeing with the position of the PPP. But first, let's listen to Justice Paul Bafo-Boni stating the recommendation and why he thinks that this should be done in 7 days.
After carefully evaluating our performance in the 2013 election petition, we decided we will have to make some recommendations. And the procedure, for example, if the idea was to file if the law was that you should file your petition within, let's say, 21 days after the release of the results. Now, you have to file within 7 days. If you look at the law, you will see that the response should also come within a certain period. That has also been cut down. So we do not say that it is even the best, because we will still want to have it done before we will still want to have everything done before the inauguration on the 7th.
And so that is Justice Bafo-Boni there. Meanwhile, according to Justice Jones Doche, chairperson of the Election Manual Review Committee, any suit challenging a presidential election will only be allowed from contestants in the election and only against the winner and the Electoral Commission. You may recall that the last election petition dragged on for more than 8 months, and they had the NDC also as a party in that case. Listen to Justice Jones Doche.
The Supreme Court is proposing that should there be any dispute, it would not go beyond 42 days. And there are major significant changes in the law, in the sense that now if you are interested in pursuing or initiating an presidential election dispute, you must have been a candidate in that election. And you can only sue the one who has been declared as the winner by the EC and the EC. That's all. No political party will be allowed to join the suit. And we propose 30 timelines which will not go beyond 42 days. So these are significant material you find in the content of the manual.
And so you had this Justice of the Supreme Court, Jones Doche, speaking there. Let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to a member of the NDC's legal team, Abraham Amaliba. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. A number of issues, two major issues. The first has to do with the time frame within which you can file your petition, and the other has to do with who can file the petition and who can join in the suit. Let's start with the time frame. What is your take on this? We know 21 days is what is stipulated. However, the justices are recommending that you do this in 7 days should the need arise.
I heard the Supreme Court justices say it's a recommendation. I hope it remains a recommendation.
Yes, a recommendation. That is what they say.
Yes, and it is an exaltation. So probably they are saying that, can you quickly bring it within 7 days? But that is not to say that they are amending the Article 64, which says that such a petition must be brought within 21 days. If they insist that it is an amendment, then I find it difficult to appreciate that, because the Article 64, the whole of Chapter 8 is an entrenched clause. And so you need some referendum to have that change from 21 to 7 days. So as we speak now, it is still the law. That manual cannot amend that provision. But I want to think that it is an exaltation, and it is like trying to tell the lawyers who will be representing persons in court in respect of an election petition that, can you quickly bring it within 7 days? But it cannot, and I must say it cannot, amend Article 64 without a referendum or a constitutional amendment.
So, yes, this is a recommendation from the justices of the Supreme Court. I just want to know, will this work for you? Should we get to the point where we are asked to do this in 7 days?
It depends on how quickly a petitioner can assemble his evidence. Don't forget that you go to court of evidence. And so the framers of the Constitution thought that 21 days was enough. After the election has been declared, then you can put together your evidence. And so I think that in order that you don't stampede a petitioner to go to court without the evidence, the 21 days is still the best. But if they intend that this should be done within 7 days, like I've indicated, they have to go for a constitutional amendment. They cannot just use the manual to amend the Constitution.
Let's talk about the second issue, which has to do with who can join the suit. So in the 2012 presidential election petition, we had Dr. Baumia, the presidential candidate, also Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in that suit, the NPP. There was the presidential candidate of the NDC at the time, John Mahama, and also the NDC as a party in that suit, that petition, which lasted about 8 months. Now, the justices are saying that that is too long a time. They would want to do this within 42 days. And so, for that matter, the only persons who can join the suit, as it were, is the petitioner, the EC, and the candidate whose legitimacy is being contested. What is your take on that?
Now, with the 42 days, I tend to agree with them that the 8 months that we used to litigate the 2012 election was too much. And the whole country was centered on 10th of, I agree. But for them to be able to prescribe a time period, as the Constitution indicated, Article 64.3, I think, provides that there must be a Court of Rules Committee that would put together a CI laid before Parliament to provide the rules for the determination of the petition. So here again, laudable as it is, they would have to go to the Parliament with a CI to be able to amend and then provide that time frame. It is difficult to point out that you must use 42 days to litigate when there are issues to be resolved, and cross-examination would have to expose all those issues. You cannot limit a lawyer and indicate that the lawyer should not go beyond a certain number of days when the lawyer still has more questions to ask of the witness. And so if they intend to prescribe a time period, once again, they will have to go to court. They have to go to Parliament with a CI that will stipulate the rules, the engagement, and how the litigation will be done. And there, they can include the 42 days.
On the issue of the parties in the suit, in the last petition, we had the NDC as a party in the suit. This time round, we are told that you cannot do that. You cannot have the opportunity to join. It will just be the petitioner, the Electoral Commission, and the candidate whose legitimacy is being contested.
There was good reason why the NDC joined the suit. First and foremost, the NDC provided a vehicle on which John Dramani Mahama rode on to win the 2012 election, which was contested. Also, the NDC were of the view that the interest of John Dramani Mahama was coterminous with the interest of the NDC. And so whatever decision taken against John Dramani Mahama, the NDC may either benefit or suffer from it. And so that was the reason why the NDC joined. This is discretionary. To join or not to join a suit is discretionary. The courts can decide that you won't join. But any party who thinks that it has an interest in the matter cannot just sit by and say, I won't join. However, if you apply to join, the court may allow you or may not allow you. That is within the bosom of the court and the judges. So on that score, I think they can decide what they want to do on that. But on the two previous issues, which have to do with the 21 days and cut down to 7 days, and then also stipulating 42 days, those ones, they will have to do further work on it. They cannot just use the manual and then amend those provisions.
There's another angle to this that I want to pick your thought on, but I want to read from the manual, page 41 of the manual, and it says that, and this is quoting Article 64.1, the validity of the election of the president may be challenged only by a citizen of Ghana who may present a petition for the purpose to the Supreme Court. And this is a quote of Article 64.1. Now, it continues to say that envisages that a petition challenging the validity of the election of a president may be commenced by the person who had been declared by the Electoral Commission as the losing presidential candidate. In other words, the election may be challenged only by the person who alleges that he was the winner of the election. So in other words, whoever the court, again, the justices are defining who can file a petition, whilst we know that it is also stipulated that anyone, when you read the Constitution, it says that anyone may present a petition for this purpose. The justices are saying this time round that only the loser in that particular election is the one who may be allowed to file the petition. Your reaction to this?
If you remember, in the last election you only mentioned Baumia's name, but we had Jake as well. So there were three who were like the petitioners in that case. And I think that going straight to the point, it is right that they would limit it to only the one who would have benefited from the elections, who would have been declared the winner, but was declared the loser, and that will be the presidential candidate who is contesting. That I agree with them, and that I can live with that.
Mr. Amaliba, I want to thank you for your time here on Top Story. And that's Amaliba, Abraham Amaliba. He's a member of the NDC's legal team. This is Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM. And this is Top Story here on Joy 99.7 FM. And today, the political parties have been reacting to the justices of the Supreme Court who are making recommendations on the adjudication of any election petition, presidential election petition that may arise from the 2020 elections. Let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to private legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayenene. Mr. Ayenene, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. You have heard the recommendations. I first of all want to get your take on the issue of the time frame within which one can file a petition.
And that is cast in the Constitution, and until there is an amendment to the Constitution, that will be difficult to deal with. So, as far as the 21-day period as recommended, is recommended for reduction to 42 days is concerned, it has to go through a process. Meanwhile, ahead of the 2016 elections, I was privileged to present a paper to the justices towards a similar process. And in that paper, I studied more particularly the Kenyan, constitution and the manner in which Kenya does the process. And so, as a consultant, I came to the conclusion that our timelines, whilst may look good in the sense that it allows the court an opportunity to do a more thorough job than the Kenyan court did in their case, we needed to work towards reducing the timelines within which we work. If you look at the CI, there's a CI that governs the election petition as far as the presidential elections is concerned. The CI actually has timelines within which various activities must take place. My view is that if we try to stick to that particular CI, we may make a lot of progress, except that CI lacks one thing. Whilst it provides timelines for almost everything else to be done, it does not provide a timeline for the period of the trial. For the period of the trial, it's left, at bay. So that's why you found that we did so many months, several months, doing the election petition. And I think the solution is rather providing for now, for our present purposes, which is easier done by a process of rules of court, which doesn't need reference to constitutional amendment and anything. We provide to fill the gap in the CI for the election petition, presidential election petition, because that is where the problem presently is. The period of trial. There's no period, timeline for trial, and that's the only lacuna that I find that we presently need to fill. But the suggestions and the recommendations, as before, as you have heard them today, have always been that we should work towards, reducing the time within which a case of a presidential election is fought.
I'd like to thank you very much for your time. That's private legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayen. And of course, this has just started. We have just 12 days to the election proper. Let's see how all of this unfolds, and we'll bring you some more reactions in our subsequent bulletins. This is Top Story, brought to you by Balakwa Mineral Water and Gasam Cement, the nation builder. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll bring you commentary from the Joy Sports team. Stay with us.
55, 78, 58, 70. Hey, Charlie. My network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis.
Hey, charges alone just to